So before we get started with today's review, I have an important announcement coming to the channel. It may sound crazy, but it ain't no lie, baby. Bye, bye, bye. Hey there and welcome to the channel. My name is Gil and today we are reviewing the highly anticipated Deadpool and Wolverine. It's the third installment in the Deadpool franchise and it bridges the gap between the MCU and the Fox Studio universe. The film stars Ryan Reynolds, Hugh Jackman, Emma Corrin, and it's directed by Shawn Levy. In Deadpool and Wolverine, Wade Wilson is offered a place in the MCU by the TVA, but instead recruits a variant of Wolverine to save his universe from extinction. Let's just get this out of the way. The MCU is down bad. The recent string of MCU films have been either garbage or mediocre and forgettable. The last really good MCU film was probably Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, or Shang-Chi. And even then, that's kind of stretching it. Deadpool and Wolverine has a lot to carry on the weight of its shoulders. It has to bridge both the MCU and the Fox universes together, while also at the same time bringing the MCU back into fruition. And I think for a large part, this movie successfully does that. I have a lot of issues with this story, but I'll talk about that more in a bit. And I think that the laughs are generally enjoyable here. Do I think it's the best Deadpool movie? Absolutely not. This is probably my least favorite Deadpool movie, but I think it is absolutely critic-proof. Now, before I go into the negatives of this film, I want to talk about the things that I really loved about this film. The one takeaway everyone's going to talk to you about through word of mouth or through social media are about the cameos. This movie has a bounty of cameos, and all of them nearly hit on a hilarious level. If you understand the references, the comic book characters, the film production hell that some of these characters have gone through, this movie hits the funny bone pretty well. There's at least 2 or 3 playing in my mind that I'm thinking of that are making me laugh right now. But it's also to the detriment of the story. This is a movie that I think won't hold up over time because you really do get over the shock and awe value of those cameos upon rewatch. Before I went to go watch this film, I went and rewatched Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2 to kind of catch myself up on the story. And those movies hold up very well. The writing is sharp, the acting is really sharp, and the cameos are kept to a limited budget. I actually like the intimacy of Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2 when it comes to Deadpool's other characters and the side characters in those stories. When you compare it to Deadpool and Wolverine, the reason why I think Deadpool and Wolverine won't hold up as well is because the cameos are kind of you have to be there to experience it sort of sensation. You watch the film, you see that person pop up on screen, you're like, holy shit, how did they make this happen? And then it wears off. You'll watch the movie maybe once or twice when it comes back to streaming or home video, and they'll be less funny. And then you start to see all the little inadequacies and the flaws that you have in the story that is presented here in this film. Deadpool and Wolverine does suffer from all the big problems that I've had with the MCU leading up into this film. The multiversal storyline that they're trying to tell with these films kind of raises the stakes to a level that you can't comprehend. It almost feels like there are no stakes at all. When you compare them to the first and second Deadpool movie, which are very low budget and very intimate, you get to know all the other characters, Vanessa, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, Peter. You learn to care about them because the movie is so personal in the way that Deadpool interacts with them on a daily basis. But with this movie, everything gets blown out of proportion to a subatomic level involving timelines and the TVA, that it becomes kind of a convoluted mess when you think about everything. I know this is going to be a bit of a controversial take, but even the fights suffer because of that reason. You look at Wolverine and Deadpool fighting in a vehicle and you're like, holy shit, this is fucking awesome. But when you think about it, because the two are immortal, they're just stabbing each other with really no repercussions or consequences. And that's a big problem with the third act too. There is a big fight involving 100 different Deadpool clones, and you just end up thinking, well, they're just gonna heal themselves. What the fuck is the big problem here? And that pretty much compounds with the story flaws that I had with Deadpool and Wolverine. The stakes are so large that there are no stakes at all because no one's killable here. But I will say, the storylines that I did enjoy in this film, when the stakes were really low and very intimate, were the moments between Hugh Jackman as Logan and, it wouldn't be a spoiler because she's in the marketing of this film, but Daphne Keane as X-23. Those little special moments between these characters are what makes this movie have a lot more heart than what we've seen out of the MCU the past few years. I would cling on to those moments and those scenes a lot more than the big cameos because they're very special. And it gives Hugh Jackman release to give himself one of the best performances we've seen of him as Wolverine. This is the best we've seen as Wolverine since Logan, but I would say it's the best Wolverine performance altogether. This is his berserker mode. You see the anger and the hatred in his eyes, but you also get that endearing, charismatic, and heartbroken side that we've seen in Logan, the feature film. I love what Hugh Jackman did here, and it's one of the strengths of this picture and why I could recommend it to people. Also, his chemistry with Ryan Reynolds is on point. You could tell these two actors were born to play each other, and I just love that we did get a chance to see both of them portray these characters together on screen for the very first time as their rightful characters. I'm completely disregarding X-Men Origins Wolverine because fuck that movie, but I love that this is the true version of Deadpool and the true version of Wolverine on screen for the very first time in a feature-length film where they could basically buddy cop off of one another across the multiverse. If there is one aspect of this film that I love, it's seeing these two actors play off one another. They are fantastic together and their chemistry is great. Now, a movie like this isn't as memorable without its two villains. Here we have Emma Corrin as Cassandra Nova and Matthew McFadyen as Mr. Paradox. Sadly, I think they're very mediocre. Cassandra Nova, in particular, is probably the stronger of the two in terms of being a villain and an antagonist, because her powers are actually pretty creepy. There's a scene where she's literally sticking her hands into Matthew McFadyen's face and into his nose and anal cavities. Nasal cavities. I might leave that in there. Who knows? But yeah, there are moments where it's genuinely creepy what she's doing to these characters and why she's so unstoppable in the void. But ultimately, her plan is pretty much like every other MCU villain. I want to destroy everything for the sake of destroying, and there's no motivation behind it. I thought they were going to take this character in a different route at a certain point in the story. They ended up turning back to just making her a mustachio-twirling villain, and I just didn't really care for her. And as for Matthew McFadyen, I love this guy. I'm a huge fan of Succession, and him joining the MCU was something that I was kind of looking forward to in this film. He's a bit schwarmy and a bit of a schmuck and a sleazebag in this film, and he's probably the most disposable one-off character that you'll see in any of these MCU films. I don't expect him to make a comeback because he's just kind of forgettable. You forget he's here and he doesn't impose that much of a threat on either one of the heroes or villains. He has a couple good jokes, but I think his appearance in the MCU is ultimately wasted. One final thing before I give you my review score is I want to talk about the writing of this movie. Compared to Deadpool 1 and Deadpool 2, Deadpool and Wolverine had a total of 6 writers compared to 2 writers on each of the previous films. This one has Ryan Reynolds in the writing room also, so that kind of gave it a little bit of an advantage. But I do feel that Deadpool joining the MCU and getting the free reign to use whatever curse words or whatever dirty jokes they can kind of plays to the disadvantage of this film's quality of writing. It feels like a 13-year-old learning about the F-bomb for the first time, and now that's all that they could say. The same thing applies to these writers. There's a lot of times where I watch this movie, listen to the dialogue, and the F-bombs were flying for no fucking reason. Just like that. And it's just sad because the other movies were crass, don't get me wrong, but this movie is crass just for the sake of being crass because they know they now have free license to write and say whatever they can with these characters, in the MCU no less, so they were going to take free reins with it. It's a bit troubling because you can tell the writing took a backseat on this one, but I don't think it's going to deter for your enjoyment. This is something that I just personally had a problem with. Does Deadpool and Wolverine restore the MCU to its former glory? I don't think so. But it's still a hell of a good time, especially in a communal theater experience. Overall, I think it's a bit underwhelming, but still a crowd pleaser. I think you're going to love this movie, but it's not the best thing since sliced bread. I don't want to give you the wrong impression that this is the best Marvel movie that they've ever made, because it's not. It's very flawed, but it's very fun. I give Deadpool and Wolverine 3.5 out of 5. Let's be honest, you're going to love this movie no matter what. It's a big crowd pleaser, And even the small little problems and gripes I have with it is not going to deter you from a good time here. This is a good movie for everyone to enjoy, but there are problems with it. However, one of the things that I did love about this film is the love letter in the credit sequence to the Fox Studios universe. I never thought I'd get emotional over Fant4stick, but here we are. I think you'll have a good time at the movie theater with Deadpool and Wolverine, and who knows what the MCU has in store going forward. All I know is that I could enjoy this nice little break before everything goes to chaos with all the rest of the films. If you were one of the millions of fans that flocked to the theater this weekend to go watch Deadpool and Wolverine, sound off in the comments section down below what you thought of the film. I'm pretty sure you loved it, so just let me know what were your favorite moments in the film. And if you didn't like it, let me know why. I'm interested to see what you guys have to say. Be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss an episode or a review. I have my top 5 favorite MCU films on the channel, so I highly recommend you go watch that if you liked this review. I have a Discord channel that you're invited to join. The link will be in the description. It's open to all film fans, video game fans, and people who collect Mountain Dew bottles. So check the link down below and join our Discord now. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch this dumb little video. It took me a lot of time to learn the bye 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 dance, and it was pretty cringy. But as for me, thank you all for watching, and go catch a movie.